the lighting is going to be awful in this. I can see it happening. I apologise. Welcome back. Today I thought I would do a little deep dive video into a D&D campaign I've been watching called RavenWood Academy. I've done a video about it before when I got into my Aria cosplay for the first time and sorted out the wig, but I didn't really talk much in that because I was too focused on doing the wig. So I thought I'd do a little side video talking about some of the lore and the theories that I have around the world. Fair warning, this video probably isn't going to be the best because I broke my tripod, so I'm literally just using my hand and natural lighting. And also, the sound is going to be different. One, I have my fan going because it is hot in the UK, and I'm wearing this little microphone that I brought to hopefully help. So it's going to be a new thing for all of us. To start with, I should probably give a little disclaimer that this is going to talk about a lot of spoilers. So if you want to understand the lore and you haven't watched it and you don't want it spoiled, you should probably go over to Lil Boff channel and watch it. It is very long, but it is so worth it. It's so cinematic and you just get a feel for all the characters, and it's much more roleplay based. So if you want a more roleplay based campaign to watch, this is a perfect thing to explore. I am in my Femme Julian cosplay. I was going to do a male version, which is the original, but the wig I was going to use didn't work out that well. I've been putting it off for so long to do this, and I didn't want to get disheartened anymore because the wig didn't work. So I thought I would just use my natural hair and do a femme version. I don't think it looks that bad, so I'm happy with it. Okay, so I thought I would start with sort of a basic understanding of what we have been told about the world, how it all happened about Earth and Ostradel, but also including the theories of what I think happened, because it's not quite been confirmed about everything that's happened so far. So I thought I would just compile it all into beginning to finish, mainly revolving around Rain and their character. Okay, so it all starts with Rain Orion and this mysterious other third sibling that we've now learned about, which is where I'm up to right now. As we know, they travel from Earth to Ostradel, which is where their father is. So they have magic with her and then come to Earth and, I don't know, just chill, I guess. This is where I think we start to be introduced, or they start to introduce and meet the Guardians. I believe that it was Rain who found them first and kept it sort of like his secret little thing. The way I figure this to work is Earth is just normal Earth around the 18th century right now. I'm linking it to be because of later issues that we will talk about, but I believe it's normal 18,000 Britain, I guess. And the way that they find the Guardians is it's like this hidden underworld that's still the same realm as Earth, but also a realm that's in itself and can access other things. So I think it's this secret third thing, because we love thirds, and there's multiple doorways to get to it for the different siblings. So for Arlo, because he is a fish and his whole thing is water, I believe that not every single water source, but specific big sources of water are the link to the world and to other realms. AKA that big pond that he has, and he has visions of swimming in it, he either swims in it, or there's like secret magic where he has to specifically think of a place, or it's a secret doorway, like a pocket dimension within it that transfers them to different places, which is how they find the place. Similarly, I think there might be a doorway in the woods, which relates to Idona, because she is a unicorn, and the whole woods, it just makes sense that a unicorn would be in the woods. So maybe there's like a place in the trees, or in a specific branch, or just if you go too far then you find it, and that's what you walk through. I think it's that doorway that Rain finds, the doorway into the Guardians from the woods, and maybe he just stumbled across it, didn't realise, and it's this whole world of the Guardians that have all these powers. Either this, or it was his father who stumbled upon it originally and told his mother, which is how the whole portals pathway started before, or he just kept it to himself and showed it to Rain and his children when they got there. But personally, I like the whole idea that Rain stumbled upon it. Maybe he was feeling a bit left out, being the middle child, with this new baby and the older brother. It's a weird situation to be in. So I believe that he found it first. He then kept it to himself and didn't want anyone else to find it. He would rather conceal it, get to know all the guardians. It's his own personal hideaway. During this time, his father would also give him gifts, which has been confirmed. He would get not normal trinkets, but powers such as rage for Orion and other gifts that we find out Rain got. But this is going alongside it. And eventually maybe he found out about this guardian place and he wanted to explore that more and the power that that had and all these elements. From this, the third sister, whose name we have not been told yet, they seem to have been left out quite a bit. As in the dream, I believe it was, that Arlo had. She was sort of to the side. She wanted to not really being involved, and so I feel like she built a complex about this, where she was always pushed to the side and left out of things, including possibly the gifts that her father was given to Rain and Orion at the same time. Possibly giving her smaller gifts or not as many, making her feel like she was a bit inferior to the rest of them. Because of this, feeling that inferior, she got jealous, and I believe maybe at a younger age, something happened where she set some kind of attack or unintentional power surge from within, where something happened to the realm of the Guardians. Something that knocked them about. Either they were injured, they were sent through all of these different portals to places that everyone didn't realise again. They were lost, stranded, and it was just a bit of a mess for them. And because of this big power surge and this attack on the Guardians that they didn't foresee, this is what was the final cause for Ostrogel to close the pathway, wanting to shield the sister back on Earth so that she can't get to Ostrogel and harm anyone else, which is also why they took all the magic with them, one, to fuel their game because they love power, you know, the elders, but also they wanted to make sure that she was as weak as possible and couldn't get back so that they had more of an opportunity to go forward. But in the process, also left Rain, unintentionally perhaps, with their father as well. So with this whole logic of there being like two technically underworlds on Earth, it would have still been around the 18,000s? I swear that's a time period, right? 1800s. Around the 1800s. And because Rain was kept with his father, he sort of moulded him into this person that was a little more able to be moulded. He was impressionable, he'd been through a lot with losing everyone, from the Guardians that he was friends with, and perhaps more if you've seen how close they were to Idona. I'm not sure what his sexuality is. But you know what I mean, they were very close, and they lost that, but they also lost their family, Orion and his mother, which is going to be filled with this anger of being shut out. And also everything that happened with his sister, it's a big emotional time, and I feel like his father utilised that and manipulated him to be this person that he wanted to be. So together, him and his father would work on these inventions, magic or non-magic, but they would work together, maybe trying to come up with some idea to go home. And I feel like it's during this point when that anger for Orion and his mother was really honed into. Alongside this, because it's the 18,000s, this was also around the time when Tobias was around with the revolution, as we've seen. So I believe that it's this time that he heard wind of the revolution and Tobias and everything that he was doing, which was maybe a little bit unconventional, and his whole image to start up this group underground, undercover, without anyone knowing. Rain and Tobias started this friendship of sorts where they would talk about the plans and the future and what they had in store, which is what led to the final deal being made. And it's here that they workshopped the idea that Rain is immortal because of one of the gifts that he was given by his father, which I believe was hinted at before, that it was a gift from someone who I'm assuming to be his father who was given these gifts. So he says to Tobias, you want all these plans and you want power and you want freedom. I have unlimited amount of time to make that happen. Come with me and I can help you out but in return you also have to lend me your knowledge and your power, which obviously they agreed to, which began that split souling, and now incorporate them in this one person of Tobias and Rain. Since there wasn't much magic at this point, I believe that they could have used the original Guardian's world to pull on any little bit of magic that they had left. The people there, the surrounding elements of the forest, just the place, maybe elements of, maybe objects that have been left around which held remnants of all this magic that he was able to combine into these magical experiments of sorts, including this soul splitting and the sort of workshopping that he was doing with his father to help go back to Ostradel in the first place and make contact. Of which, throughout this whole soul splitting and moulding into one person, Rain would allow Tobias the control to continue the work through the revolution and through the Julian bonding and, I believe, possibly right-hand man connection. But Rain snuck through every now and then, seeing himself in Julian and his whole past, and grew a connection himself, which would later be revealed the true self, and they would work together a little more closely. But for now, it was a secret that they used, and he would just slowly sneak in every now and then. Alongside this time of them working together with these elements of trying to work how to go back, making a pact with Tobias, I believe that it is possible something happened to the sister. Either after the whole event with the Guardians and the explosion of the magic, they go missing and aren't found from again. They know that they're on Earth and they're trapped, but it's unable to connect with them no matter how much they travel around, which travelling around finding the sister could have been how they found Tobias. Or, which more likely for me, they ran away at some point, seeing her father work with Rain on these inventions and having that bond, even though manipulated that she never had that attention and that connection, made her grow more jealous and more angry at the whole situation until eventually she ran away and tried to start a life and a plan of her own. After a few years of this back and forth, planning the revolution and ways to go back home, I feel like it will have been revealed finally where exactly his father got this immortality power from, and it would have been revealed that it was from Edona. This is where I think Rain starts to realise Edona is dead because his father drew all of the magic and life source from her. Not just her power of immortality, but her own immortality, which is why she died and gave it to Rain. Where originally Rain thought perhaps she had died in this catastrophe, in this explosion of power that his sister had caused. And because he was so close to Edona, this is what made him kill his father. Because it was said before, the one that had caused this to Edona, the one that had killed her, was dead. Which, if we're going with the logic that it was her father because they stole the gifts, it would make sense that the father would be dead at this point, by Rain's hands. It's then a few years later, or a few months, working alone with Julian, so not completely alone, but alone without his father, he finally manages to succeed in making some kind of portal or transportation to go back to Ostradel. It's within this time frame that I think two things happen. A few days before, or maybe a few days after they arrive in Ostradel, Julian is found out who Rain is. He knows that Tobias and Rain have joined, he knows that they are the same person, and he realises, oh, the pink eyes that I've been seeing comfort me and feel such love and care towards has been Rain. And that is what makes their bond grow stronger and become more of an apprentice to Rain. Similarly, Julian may have gained some kind of immortality at this point because he is so much older in the current campaign, because it's like 200-300 years in the future. He has to have some kind of immortality to be seemingly so young so late on. So I believe maybe Rain gave him a little bit of his own immortality, which just goes to show how close they were, that he felt comfortable giving this power and working alongside him for so long. It also explains why the scanner came up so inconclusive on the little scanner thing when they were in the underground tavern. Since Julian is technically a human from the original Earth, yet has been an apprentice to Rain and has been learning magic from Rain, which is why he's a wizard, because he wasn't born with the magic, but he learnt it and he was able to control that power that he was given. It explains why the scanner went all glitchy and was like freaking out. Yay, they're finally on Ostradel, but how the fuck do they get back to Earth after everything? Because they got back, it was successful, but as it was the first attempt, it's very likely that it was unstable and they ended up in the wrong place that they wanted, and there was no way to get home, which left them again stranded in a different realm. But at least this time they had a motive. Sorry for the quality change. I had to switch phones because my phone died, which is just great. But I'm going to continue anyway. So they're stranded on Ostradel, but they have a plan, and they have a few resources that they took with them. One of which, or three of which I should say, were the daggers that their father originally made. The other one, the fourth missing one that is unknown, I believe the sister has taken, which leads back to the running away route. I believe the sister had it, they stole it before they ran away, and left the other three, aka stealing her dagger that was meant for her as a little fuck you, and then Rain took the other three, one which is now with Orion, one with Alder, and then the other with Julian, and now the rest of his campaign. The first thing I believe they did, though, as soon as they got back to Ostradel, was the meeting with his mother and Orion. We saw it in the flashback, or the vision, I suppose, that Andromeda had, where we were standing in seemingly Rain or Tobias' point of view, with Julian, Orion, and Nexus. That's not her name. What's her name? Ven. And Ven, his mother. This is one of the first things I think he did when he got back. He just wanted to see them and try and see if they had any remorse, which they didn't show, so he was like, fuck you, I'm definitely going through and like murdering you now, lol. A few months later, or a few days perhaps, we're not sure on the timeline, but Orion left and stepped down, and so did his mother. His mother left first, so perhaps Rain was trying to find her, and then later he stepped down, so it was this sort of, finally got to Ostradel, and everyone was leaving, so he couldn't quite carry out the plan of revenge that he had in mind yet, which just allowed him to shine up the plan a little bit more, to finally figure out if he was going to go through with it, as well as sort out plans for trying to find his sister, which I believe he may have had in store, trying to figure out possibly if she found a way to get back, if anyone knew of her, and everything to do with that. Now back in Ostradel, there is more magic and more elements and power that they're able to draw on, which is where they begin working together to build the actual sphere portals, the originals that are being used in the campaign now that work and are undeniably strong. I wouldn't say unflawed, but the originals that work to how they want. They work together to find all the resources, work with different ingredients, and which is where Rain stumbles upon the Red River, along with finding Alder along this timeline when he was waiting, or a few days before, where they bump into this boy, just wanted the crystals, and this boy was skipping rocks, and obviously that slowly bloomed into meeting a little more until he fell for him, and he fell hard. At this point they weren't that close, so maybe like a few weeks, months, depending on how fast it went. Near the beginning of the friendship relationship thing is when Rain finally managed to go through with the plan that he wanted with Orion, with him sending that letter saying he was coming back to collect his things and he was going to live a new life, basically informing Rain he had completely forgotten about him and was just moving on as if nothing mattered. He was starting his own family, which is where he took the dagger and imprinted. He stabbed him and comatose him in his little sister's bedroom, no less. It's this place where it starts to get a little bit more messy. It's more the recent timeline where everything hasn't been quite set up until now. I'm fairly confident with the theory making sense, but here you're just going to have to bear with me. So with Orion out the way, he had a little bit more time to focus on finding his mother and his sister and getting to know Alder a little more, which is when Andromeda was born and started to realise, Alder did, that the Dryad family and community wasn't all that it's cracked up to be and was quite flawed. He brought this up with Rain, a little worried about all the whispers that he was hearing and the things that he was seeing, which he shouldn't have been privy to, and brought up all these issues to Rain, who he trusted and confided in, to say, help, I don't know what's happening, I need to learn about this information more, either to do with his sister or the general back tattoo people in general, of which Rain obviously agreed to and was like, yeah, I'll find out, fuck it. So they worked together, sort of going around finding out everything about the elders in the government buildings in the capital and the fates that happened to the Dryads with these tree tattoos on the backs, which is why Alder was so worried, because Andromeda was born with this mark. It was her birthmark, it was her tattoo, and he wanted to know the fate that was in store for her, and finding out that every fate had led up to this. They wanted to change that as best they could, and they thought Rain could help with that. Having found all this information out, Alder was asking a lot of questions and things that Rain couldn't answer, which led to the eventual the confession of everything Rain did to Orion and the plans that he had for his mother. Alder, learning that Rain was capable of this, changed his mind about him a little. He cared so much for Andromeda, and the idea that he could do something like that to their own siblings was just completely foreign to him, which is when it sort of began, oh shit, I've got myself in tuned with the wrong type of people. And slowly he followed them and played along, but set up the whole plan of himself where he wanted to lead the book for Andromeda along the way of walking with him now and then in the path of life. Now it gets to the good shit, the rapture, and how that all started. I like to believe that there was some sort of information that Alder found out from Andromeda, either through word of mouth, that they remember vaguely this dream they had that involved someone that sounded a lot like Rain's sister, or the one that I like, Alder stole her dream notebook to look through everything and give them more information, and through which, in the notebook, they found information and details of where their sister is or plans that his sister is up to. This would also explain why, after they visited the other realms after the ball, the notebook was missing, because it's possible that Rain stole it as he had done before, possibly, I don't know, still had the key, something that he was used to, and took it to see if there was any more new information that he could use to his advantage, because he had done it before. Anyway, they followed the information and managed to use this to their advantage to finally find their sister. But she was not happy, obviously, and it's that cinematic moment where they're just so angry that they can't control their powers, and they just feel so abandoned that they unleash this power like never before, trying to start a portal with their own hands. They don't need any materials, just it's their raw power. They're able to create portals and try to send Rain back to Earth, which they do, but in the process send portals everywhere to every realm, sending people flying through these portals to Earth, which is what the rapture was, and I believe it was caused by this third sister. But through this, Alder was able to stay, only to hurt Rain a little more, to then be put on Aviosis in the prison there, which is how he ended up there like a year ago, when it would have been the beginning of the rapture. As for Julian, a few months prior, there was an experiment of sorts that he was working on himself or with Rain, and it caused him to have this amnesia where he just wouldn't remember. and Rain was originally going to help having this connection with him, but decided it might be best to just leave him as it is, forget all the pain that he had felt with his past, with his family, and just move on and try and have a little bit of safety because it was unknown what was going to happen next with his sister, and instead hid it all up and put it up to Tobias instead of his true self again. The rapture has happened, everyone is everywhere, and Earth has gained back that little bit of magic from the pathway of all this rupture happening, which ignites a little bit of magic within them. Let's rewind a little bit back to what happened after that big explosion with the third sister that originally sent the Guardians flying everywhere. So after the attack with Guardians flying everywhere, being missing, hurt, I believe that the siblings made this plan where some would stay in case others came back to help the injured, while the others, possibly the oldest, such as Cal, went out and tried to find all the siblings that were lost. But in the process, with less siblings being at home and being in the original Guardian sanctuary, it made it weak and it made it vulnerable to attacks. Because of this, because it was so weak and it was just easy to attack, because there was less power to defend it, possible humans found it and tried to attack the Guardians there and claim the land for themselves as they do, or magical creatures attacked and tried to harm the people that lived there, which is how Arlo will have fell through the water that is his own original portal, and in the process hit his head, and through fighting and trying to escape, hit his head and fell unconscious, which is how he drifted to this other world which he didn't have any control over, which later will have been Ostradel, and ended up on the beaches of Hanburn a few years before the original rapture. As a result of hitting his head, maybe he did forget a few things or was a little bit confused, but mostly his brain was hurt from all the loss that he had gone through with his siblings and losing the power and his home being under attack, that he figured it would just be best to ignore everything and pretend he didn't know any of that happened, which is why he lost all of his memory. And his brain could just easily chalk it up to a head injury. So let's wrap it up. Portals have been made, so the rapture has happened, which led to the sectors and everything that happened at RavenWood. Meanwhile, Rain, with the knowledge of knowing how to make portals, decided to go back to Ostradel to try and find his sister and Alder, who had been separated from him. In the process, he found Alder was in Aviosis and rescued him and made connections there, which is how he was so able to run that prison and get Zophiel and Zephyrus out of it. Similarly, he could have bargained with Alder and said, hey, I will give you Zephyrus if I can have Alder back, which is how Zephyrus could have got there as a possibility. But not long after Alder was taken back out of Aviosis, Rain found his sister again, and he was so devoted to his sister and trying to help and make her feel wanted how he wanted to feel wanted, that she used that a little bit too much to her advantage, and as a result gave him possible false information, or gave him information that she knew he would react strongly to, in which, to help her plan, he eventually put Alder against the tree, knowing that he would need that life force both to help Andromeda, it seems, like Andromeda is a piece of the puzzle for this bigger plan that his sister had in store, and as a result, Alder himself was going to die if the tree didn't get power. So it was helping him in a roundabout way. Messed up, but still works. And he was determined that he would help him afterwards. So that's how Alder got against the tree. Which is how we lead up to now, where Rain and his sister are sort of working together in this slight soul-splitting way, where she seems to be in his head, which is what we found out from Andromeda's vision, where it seems like he was crying in pain at this unknown thing, which seems like he could have possibly hurt himself, but it wasn't him, it could have been his sister in his head. It's complicated. But he sort of works underneath her, which is why she has all the power, and she was mad that he helped Julia, and he let out this secret of how to create spheres, and knowing how close he was to Julia in the first place, she could see it as a weakness, and so as punishment, that's why he was hurt. So the question now is, what is this big plan that his sister has planned and that is in control of and that he's working with, and why does he feel so strongly that it's going to work and that it's a need? I don't know. That's all I know. That's where I'm up to right now. We have all the lore for how they got here, or at least how I think they might have got here. And now the question is, what is the intention with the sister and why do they want to do what they do? But I guess that's just something that we'll have to watch more campaign for. And I'm so ready for it. With the beginning of season 4 happening, I'm ready to know what the big plan is. Because Rain definitely isn't the big bad. I think the sister is the big bad, and I want to meet her so badly. So that is all the lore and theories that I have for you. It lays out a groundwork for everything that's happened and gives a little bit of indication of why everything happened and how Rain is linked to everything, which is something I like to believe in what has happened. With that, all that's left to say is goodbye. Thank you for watching.